Hi, I'm Ray Rooney, editor of The Stand, a blog from the American Family Association. The Stand has timely, carefully written articles on relevant cultural issues that you can quickly forward to others. Visit afa.net/The Stand.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Robert Thornton. The cross-examination of former President Donald Trump's ex-attorney Michael Cohen resumed today in the New York hush money trial. Here's Trump speaking outside of the courtroom after court adjourned for the day.
This trial is one that should have, as they say, never been charged. It should have never been brought. And again, if it was going to be brought, it should have been brought years ago. You know, they're trying to rush to get it done before the election so that they can harm me, so they can hurt their political opponent. They're rushing. All this rush. There's no rush. These trials take forever. But this one, they're rushing it. We're here early in the morning and we leave in the evening. Now the judge wants to extend the time periods.
Attorney Saul Weisenberg spoke with Fox News.
Despite the importance of Cohen as a witness, there are still terrible legal problems with even bringing this case. It is a very weak case legally, not to mention the rulings that the judge has made during the trial. So even if the government is to prevail here with a jury verdict, which I think is the jury's out, to coin a phrase, they're going to have problems here, I believe, on appeal.
Michael Cohen is expected to return to the stand with further testimony next week, with cross-examination to begin on Monday. Many conservatives are lamenting the state of the justice system in America, where pro-lifers are being prosecuted and those that commit crimes and riot are not. J. Christian Adams, president and general counsel at the Public Interest Legal Foundation, talked about the issue on AFR.
Everyone likes to say, oh, Merrick Garland, Merrick Garland, Merrick Garland. No, it's not Merrick Garland. It's the line attorneys. Merrick Garland only barely signs off on them, if that. All the bad things being driven in Washington are being done by people whose names you don't know.
He said he authored a series at PJ Media with Hans von Spakovsky about the 100-plus attorneys in the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ concerning their resumes and backgrounds.
Every single one of them are leftists with hardcore ideological backgrounds or partisan activism. Now, in a perfect world, the lawyers who are bringing these FACE Act prosecutions against pro-life people like you would have no indications of ideological bias. None. Because I know from firsthand experience, folks, the ideological attitudes of these leftist lawyers at DOJ is driving policy.
He went on to say we must understand the power of the low-level bureaucracy in D.C. He said we have a First Amendment right to talk about those in government and what their ideological biases might be. Assaults on police officers hit a 10-year high in 2023 when more than 79,000 officers suffered some form of an attack. Here's AFN's Steve Jordahl.
466 officers were assaulted with firearms last year, according to the FBI, more than double the number that were attacked in 2014. 48 of those died in the line of duty. Randy Sutton of the Wounded Blue is saddened, but not shocked.
It's not surprising to any police officer in America because the consequences for attacking law enforcement officers have been diminished.
He says respect for law enforcement officers has plummeted since the BLM riots of 2020, and the trend has been helped along by law and police policies that hamstring police officers.
There have actually been states that have decriminalized resisting arrest.
But he says the number one reason assaults are up is because of soft-on-crime district attorneys and attorneys general that have left criminals with little to give them pause before the attack.
When district attorneys refuse to prosecute those who assault law enforcement officers, that is giving a carte blanche to people to commit acts of violence against the police.
The increased assaults have inundated Sutton's nonprofit, The Wounded Blue, which makes it easier for injured officers to seek and get the proper assistance they need.
In the last 5 years, we have helped almost 14,000 American law enforcement officers who have faced injury in the line of duty. That's an astounding number.
Go to thewoundedblue.org for more information.
I'm Robert Thornton.
While we rejoice that Roe was overturned, the pro-choicers are very energized. They are winning the arguments and elections. We need to win them back. The people who bring you Wretched Radio have produced a powerful, persuasive, and proactive 13-lesson video series to help.
You don't need a PhD to tell you that human life is more valuable than the life of the ants.
Order Life is Best at shop.wretched.org. And listen to Wretched Radio Saturday nights at 10 Central on American Family Radio.
Darkness is not an affirmative force. It simply reoccupies the space vacated by the light.
This is the Hamilton Corner on American Family Radio.
It should be uncomfortable for a believer to live as a hypocrite.
Delivering people out of the bondage of mainstream media and the philosophies of this world.
God has called you and me to be his ambassadors, even in this dark moment. Let's not miss our moment.
And now, the Hamilton Corner.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hamilton Corner here on American Family Radio or NRB TV. Thank you to every single one of you who are tuning into the program. Wherever you are, however you may be tuning in, our radio listening audience, our podcast listening audience, our video streamers, our television show watchers, however you're tuning in, thank you for doing so. Those who are on AFA Stream, which, by the way, you can get the AFA Stream app on Roku or wherever you get your apps so you can watch the show. Our Great Commission partners can watch the show there, or if you want to just open a free account without being a Great Commission partner, you can watch this show on AFA Stream. Just go to streaming.afa.net, and you can do that. So much is happening today, man. My mind is swirling. I don't know if we'll get to it. I was actually emailing Bobby about this before coming on the air, where the senior oncologist in Japan, Dr. Masanori Fukushima, has come out to declare that the Schmovid injections, he literally says that they're essentially murder. He ticks off a host of ailments, including death, but not limited to death. Spikes in all manner of diseases, autoimmune diseases, neurodegenerative diseases, cancers, and not only a spike in them, but he described them as turbo cancers, that they were advancing at rates that the medical community hadn't seen, that many of the cancers, when they diagnosed them, they're already at stage 4. He shares an anecdote of personally treating a man, and we have the clip of this. I don't know if we'll get to this today or not, but treating a man who was diagnosed with a particular heart condition, and then 5 days later, his wife wakes up, tries to wake him up. He won't get up. All of this is post-shots, post-injections. He said one of the most egregious notions of it are the lipid nanoparticles that are utilized as the delivery mechanism in these injections that result in off-target effects, impacting various organs, including the ovaries, brain, liver, and bone marrow. With all of the things, the information we know, AstraZeneca removing there. Dr. Fukushima says, it's as if we've opened Pandora's box. He says what Dr. Peter McCullough said right here on AFR, what Dr. Christina Park said right here on this show, that this artificial injection of the spike protein in the human body, he said they're finding cases when the human body has the spike protein more than a year after the injections. He's like, that's not normal. Coming back to the gentleman who had the heart issue, when they finally attempted to figure out what happened, said the man's heart disintegrated when they opened him up in their hands. Never seen anything like that in all their lives. This is why, one of the reasons why, an example as to why I refuse to endeavor to navigate this life without being anchored in the Lord's word. You know, it's one thing to get on this show and we have these conversations and you're discussing, policy issues, and people want to treat things like this is one of the great detriments of our modern society is that we reduce everything to partisan politics. When you contrast this story with what we talked about yesterday, Chris Cuomo, from his horse dewormer. Now I'm taking regular doses of ivermectin. And Dr. Fukushima says what I thought all physicians who adhere to the Hippocratic Oath would say. He said one death, like the one described with the young man who died 5 days after being diagnosed. That's too much. But when everything is boiled down to politics. Again, thank you for joining the program. Abraham Hamilton III is my name. The corner contingent's in the building. Mr. Bobby Rosa is here. J Mack is here. Cole Green is here. We're ready to rock and roll with today's edition of the program. Yeah, I'm disturbed, man. I'm disturbed because I have this story. I have more stories like we were talking about the education system where $30,000 for a student. $30,000 per student. And a third can read at proficiency levels. What are we doing? I'm going to show you just a highlight of this ridiculous demand being made by the Chicago Teachers Union, $50 billion pay hike. Oh, yeah, and by the way, only 17% of their students, elementary, middle, and high school, can read at proficiency levels. Yet, another $50 billion on it. And when you see I need to turn to the Word of God. I'm going to go back to Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. And the sobriety of this moment really underscores the reality of what I'm going to share or reiterate, which we've already been discussing this week. As we talk, Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. The words of Jeremiah, the son of Hilkiah, one of the priests who were in Anathoth, in the land of Benjamin, to whom the word of the Lord came in the days of Josiah, the son of Amon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. Chapter 2, verse 1. The word of the Lord came to me, saying, go and proclaim in the hearing of Jerusalem, thus says the Lord. That's verse 1a, the first half of that verse. What we discussed yesterday was an armchair quarterbacking perspective, if you will, from the vantage point of the Lord recording these portions of history for our benefit. But when Hilkiah, Jeremiah's father, and Jeremiah are living and they're serving Yahweh and they're ministering, they are not anticipating being recorded for posterity. You understand what I'm saying? They're not saying, oh, well, Bobby, let us conduct the Hamilton Corner because 25 years from now, there shall be a book that shall be written. I'm just living. And the backdrop that they're endeavoring to serve the Lord faithfully in, the context, is a nation that is overrun in wickedness. When you get a moment, read 2 Kings chapter 23. When the Lord goes through some of the details of the reforms that Josiah implemented, and it shows you just how insidiously wicked things had become in Judah. Male cult prostitutes inside the Lord's temple, not visiting, staying there, conducting their prostitutions. Spiritually, yes, but the physical manifestations of their prostitutions were going on in the Lord's temple. You understand what I'm saying? Simply put, Hilkiah and Josiah didn't have a flowery context in which let us serve the Lord. They had a heartfelt conviction. By God's sovereign grace, he uses Hilkiah's faithfulness, causes him to curry favor with the boy king, who becomes a man by the time he's in the 13th year of his reign. So much, as we described yesterday, so much so to where Josiah trusts Hilkiah implicitly. We're going to start these temple reforms. We're going to dedicate these funds for these temple reforms, but we're not going to even require an accounting from Hilkiah because he deals faithfully. Now, you guys listen to me. A lot of people get funny about a whole lot of things, especially funny about money. You know as well as I know that you don't trust people with money unless they have demonstrated themselves to be trustworthy. There are certain circumstances where people are deceived or fooled once in a while and things of that nature. But if somebody deceives you, you're not going to say, hey, let me run another 20 grand your way. The scripture is showing us the integrity with which Hilkiah operated, that Josiah recognized, which caused him to trust him. Then you have Jeremiah making the journey, moving from Anathoth, 2 to 4 miles away from Jerusalem, moving to Jerusalem at the direction of the Lord to prophesy and to minister in the hearing of Josiah. It is not a coincidence that 5 years later, Josiah begins his reforms. Now, I'm sharing all of this intentionally, and I'm revisiting this intentionally because it is very easy. You know, I don't just get on this microphone daily. I'm living in the same environment that you're living in. I'm rearing children in the same environment that you're living in. I read the headlines. You know, we're a family where my family depends on me to provide. The outbreak of the Wuhan flu, I have to prayerfully consider what I am going to do because my family is depending upon me. I have a church family I endeavor to serve. I have people who I have relationships with. I'm navigating this just like you're navigating this. But we who are in Christ, we have the privilege of being able to navigate this context, this environment, reflecting on the fact that it is God's divine design for you and me to be planted in this context. I didn't say, you know, before I was born, oh, hear ye, I thus declare I would like to be born in the 21st century in America. I didn't do that. I had no contribution to being planted here. But you know what? You know who did? God. He determined before time the boundaries of our habitation and the times in which we would live. You and I have been planted here on purpose with all of the insanity, with Mr. Joe Robinette, who's eating his ice cream, don't know up from down. Same time he's leaving billions of dollars of equipment in Afghanistan. The same time he's refusing to send weapons to Israel. The same time where we have these, just say it this way, ill-informed young folks chanting, long live October 7th on college campuses. The same time we have people who have sworn to take the Hippocratic oath to do no harm will at the exact same time say, yeah, a boy can be a girl. The time period where you have Target stores creating bathing suits to give little boys tucking equipment in their underwear, in the bathing suits. Then they want to look at you and look at me and say, oh, you're such a bigot. God knew all of this, guys. God knew all of this. When men will become heartless, unappeasable, refusing to be reconciled, lovers of pleasure, lovers of money, haters of God, insolent. He told us all of that, but he planted us for this time period. We cannot predetermine the efficacy of our obedience to the Lord. I don't know this for a fact, but I don't think Jeremiah and Hilkiah expected to have the type of influence that would lead to a national reformation under King Josiah. Maybe they did, but I don't think that's what they anticipated. All they knew is this is what God requires of me. Lord, let me be faithful, and I want to encourage you the same way. Duty is ours. Results are the Lord's. Brother Don Wildman would say all the time, God has not called us to be successful. He's called us to be faithful. We must ascribe an appropriate, biblically anchored, God-breathed definition of success to where success for the believer is synonymous with faithfulness to the call of the King. So that in this environment where we're living, where we're moving, where we're interacting with people, and by God's grace, we may be vessels of honor through whom our Lord makes his appeal. First and foremost, through our lifestyle, the way we live reflects the reality of gospel saturation and Christ-centered conviction.
secondarily through what we proclaim. That our words would affirm our walk, and when we are confronted in this life, we are always ready to give a reason for the hope that we have. No, we're not listful. No, we're not despondent. No, we're not hate-filled. We're angry at sin, but we love the people so much so that we will convey eternal truth in the face of hostility. This is our privilege, our prerogative. Genesis is unique in many ways because it answers many of life's biggest questions, many of life's toughest questions as well.
Pastor Joseph Parker.
Where did we come from and who created us? Well, of course, we were created by God and we come from God, as Genesis chapter 1, actually chapters 1 and 2 help us better understand. In answer to the question, who created the world? Well, God did, as Genesis 1 clearly points out. You know, we didn't get here by random chance. We were created by a benevolent and a wonderful, blessed Creator and Heavenly Father who loves us with an everlasting love. The question, who created the universe? Well, again, God did, as Genesis 1 points out to us as well. What's the purpose of life? Of course, the purpose of life is to know God and to serve God. And Genesis chapters 1 and 2 help draw that truth out as well.
Joseph is host of the Hour of Intercession, heard weekday mornings at 3 Central Time. Find the podcast at afr.net.
Hello, Americans. I'm Todd Starnes. Stand by for news and commentary next. A Georgia elementary school banned 2 children from sharing Easter eggs with their classmates because the eggs contained a Bible verse. The American Center for Law and Justice is representing the children and their families. The plastic eggs contain jelly beans, a poem about the colors of the jelly beans, and a Bible verse about the meaning of Easter. As I described in my new book, Twilight's Last Gleaming, Can America Be Saved?, many of our taxpayer-funded government schools have become increasingly hostile to the name of Jesus Christ. The ACLJ correctly points out that the school district's decision to ban the Easter eggs was unconstitutional. Children have a right to share their faith with classmates and friends. The school district argued the Easter egg ban was due to a concern about children's allergies. Well, for the record, the only people allergic to Bible verses are godless heathens and the devil. Something smells rotten in that school district, and it's not the eggs. I'm Todd Starnes.
If you're 65 or older, you know this. Seeing your healthcare costs go up and up is frustrating. And maybe you were just notified that your Medicare costs are increasing again, or you're just tired of the massive deductibles. Well, here's some good news. There's a program that can really help with this. It's MediShare 65 Plus. It's an affordable, reliable alternative. You can choose any Medicare provider. You get telehealth access anytime you need it. And MediShare 65 Plus is a low-cost option for those with Medicare Parts A and B, and it fills in the gaps where Medicare stops. MediShare is a Christian healthcare community that aligns with your faith. People actually pray for you. They encourage you, and it's proven, too. It's been going strong for over 30 years now. So call now. You can get one low monthly price for up to 10 years. You're not stuck with increasing costs. You can do something about this today. Call MediShare 65 Plus. Find out how much you can save. Call 833-45-BIBLE. That's 833-45-BIBLE. 833-45-BIBLE.
Shining light into the darkness. This is the Hamilton Corner on American Family Radio.
Back to the Hamilton Corner. Abraham Hamilton III here. Yeah, started a little early. I'm sure many of you are excited to learn that the presidential debate schedule has been announced and agreed to by former President Trump and Mr. J. Robinette Biden. There were comments being lobbed back and forth between the two and between the two camps. And then Mr. Biden put out like a 15-second video or something challenging Mr. Trump to a debate. But you can tell it probably took them like 4 hours to do this because it's like all cut up splice. I'm like, man, you only give it like 15 seconds of commentary. How many takes you got to take for this? And I don't know why. Jeff, I don't know why we can get a close up like we in the movie show film industry. But if you look at Mr. Biden's face during the video, he's like this the whole time. Looks like a combination of constipated and he smelled like somebody and let the gases flow. That's what it looks like. Well, I'm going to play the video so y'all can see it. But the debates actually jettisoned the schedule that was already established by the Commission on Presidential Debates, which had already planned to have 4 total debates, 3 presidential debates and 1 vice presidential debate, the first of which was supposed to take place, as has been presidential debate custom, in the fall, September 16th. Then the second debate, October 1st. Then the third one, October 9th. But Mr. Ice Cream Man decided, he don't want to do it that way. And I'm going to get into a little bit as to why I believe they did what they did. But first, let me give you a little bit of this cringeworthy video in which Mr. Biden says, "Make my day, pal." It's clip number 4. Go.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesday.
If you're watching the show, you can see my face. This is what he looks like. Make my day, pal. That's what he looks like. Hey, come. Hey, Trump has lost 2 debates to me in 2020. Hey, man, here he wants to debate me. I'm here. He wants to debate me again. Well, let's do it. Make my day. I'll take me on the woodshed. Where's Easter Bunny? Where's the bunny? Corn pork chop. You know corn pop pork chop. Walla walla bing bang. Make my day, pal. Yeah, you know, I was born in the Galapagos Islands. I was born, yeah. You saw the NBA playoffs. You saw Adam Manning score 40 points. I used to be in the NBA. I was in the NBA. It was before they had TV cameras. I was in the NBA. Like, have you noticed? No matter what's going on, he always places himself in it. Oh, I remember when tragedy hit Hawaii. I remember my house was on fire. It was on fire. So I know the people of Hawaii are suffering. And I used to get in the swimming pool, and the kids would rub my legs. They would then they cause the hair on my legs to stand up. Y'all, people might think I'm making this up. These are all things he said. Where's Chuck? Where's Chuck? Stand up, Chuck. God love you. Chuck was a paraplegic, by the way. Remember? These are all things that happen. These are all things that happen. Anyway, get off this, man. So they've agreed to 2 presidential debates. The first of which is to take place June 27th. The second is to take place September 10th. June 27th, there's never been a presidential debate in the summer in the lead up to a fall presidential election. Oh, and by the way, I should have meant this. I've been having this story in my stack. You do realize Ashley Biden hosted scenario with her diary being stolen. Well, they tried to prosecute it because first they tried to say this diary is not real, in which she talks about showering with her father and other things. Yeah. Anyway, let me... The debates are to allow... to be hosted by a television network that has won in 2016, hosted a Republican presidential primary, 2020 hosted a Democrat primary, hence CNN and ABC got these debates. Now, the Commission on Presidential Debates they're furious because they're out. They're no longer participating in the debate process. They're setting up their own processes. But then Mr. Trump said, well, 2 debates is not enough. We need to have more opportunities for the American people to know what's going on. This is what I know is happening, guys. First and foremost, this is the latest iteration of the Uniparty wanting to make sure that Robert Kennedy Jr. doesn't get on the debate stage. Let's have it in June 27th and September 10th. David is asking when. June 27th and September 10th. Let's have it in June. Well, how does that impact Robert Kennedy? Well, it ensures that he won't have enough time to qualify for the debate because the debate require 2 primary portions of qualification. First, that all debate participants have to have the ability to earn 270 electoral votes. R.F. Kennedy Jr. is trying to run an independent campaign and still in the process of qualifying in the various states. Second, they have to have, I think, an average of 15% or higher of the national polls. But the electoral vote qualification already excludes Robert Kennedy Jr. He's out based on that alone. The next thing, it's funny. I'm sorry, the candidates must earn 15% in at least 4 major national polls beginning mid-March running through June. He's already behind the 8 ball because you realize we're in May right now. So that's the thing. The next thing is I think the Democrat Party is trying to give themselves enough time that if they realize there are not enough drugs in the world to get Mr. Biden ready for a debate, it gives them enough time to float in the substitute candidate after the fact. There's never been a debate this early. They're arguing, well, the landscape concerning elections have changed. There are many people who are voting early, and they need to have the debate early. So when they early, I'm like, what's really going to change? If they're going to early vote, they're going to early vote anyway. You having a debate, you suckers are snakes, man. Y'all trying to make it so, because you know it's very difficult at this stage, and everybody recognizes it. Mr. Biden is suffering from mental debilitation. That's just the reality. And so in the past, they've been able to hop him up, his eyes like this, and they're not sure whether or not that's going to work this time. And unfortunately, the standards have been lowered so bad. I mean, we really should stop and consider that we're at this place. And I've said numerous times, and I'll say it again, Mr. Trump is far better than Joe Biden. But that doesn't automatically make him a good candidate because he's better than these other guys. It also doesn't diminish that he is the person that our Lord used to help me to be able to say with my chest and declare, she shall never be president. Lord, thank you for that. But guys, we're in a bad state as a nation if it is boiling down to Mr. Trump and Biden. That's the reality. But that's my major take as to why they want to do it so early. And they only want to do 2. They only want to do 2. So when Mr. Trump hits back and says, we need to do more than 2, we need to do at least 4, they go, we're not having any more debates about debates. It's 2, and that's what we're going to do. Like, come on, man. So we're going to have a presidential debate. Votes are going to be cast in November. We're going to have a presidential debate in June. So I just wanted to give you that update. Now, I'm going to move on. In light of the program we did yesterday, I thought you would want to hear about this. Because as I went through the various states, how much each state spent on per pupil, what they call education. I'm sorry, guys. I cannot call that education. When you have 30%, 16%, 22%, 40% of the entire body, the entire student body at certain grade levels that are barely reading at proficiency levels? What are we doing? $30,000 per child? You know, I know we have a lot of wealthy people who listen to this program, but we have a lot more people who are regular people just like me and most of you are listening to me. $30,000 per child, and only a third of them are learning to read is a problem. A huge problem. Not to be outdone, in the city of Chicago, some of you might have heard about this. The Chicago Teachers Union, in 2019, they already had a cush deal, a 5-year deal that gave them a 16% raise for teachers, a 40% raise for teaching assistants and other staff, a freeze on healthcare premiums for health insurance and things of that nature, increased per pupil spending, and a moratorium on charter schools because the public school system didn't govern the charters in Chicago. Well, now that deal is expiring, they have come back to the negotiating table with the Chicago public school system, and they're asking for another $50 billion with a B, billion, not million, with a B, $50 billion pay hike, as well as other perks. I want you to listen to and watch this clip. It's clip number 2 Go.
In red shirts, they came south seeking green.
We got so many kids that need help. We need funds.
A heated CTU finding a chilly reception in some pockets of the capital.
The money grubbing, of course, is absolutely shameless, given that this union is demanding annual pay raises of at least 9%.
What state Republicans call money grubbing, the CTU calls a $1.1 billion demand. Today, focusing on soaring costs with every arriving migrant child.
We received more than 100 newcomers just with no plan in place, but we were there to help CPS and to help you, the government.
The heart of their argument, a formula agreed upon years ago to fully fund Illinois schools.
We're not asking our lawmakers. We're demanding what they said Bruce Rauner, a Republican governor here in Illinois, promised us. And now it's time for them to fulfill that promise.
So they're not asking, you see. They're demanding. Did I mention that the city of Chicago already has a $538 million budget shortfall? Did I happen to mention that? You think they care about that? No. Now, what I want to do for you, because this is why y'all rock with me. Y'all hang out with me because I do what really, frankly, many of you don't want to do. And honestly, I don't want to do it most of the time. But I do it because I love the people, you see. And I want you to be aware, the Chicago Teachers Union is comprised of 25,000 members. 25,000 members. They negotiate with the Chicago Public School System. So you have CTU, the Chicago Teachers Union, CPS, the Chicago Public School System. According to the teachers union's budgetary proposals, you want to know what, and you heard $1.1 billion in the clip. That was one aspect of it. That's not the whole thing. The entire package is over $50 billion worth of benefits, including pay raises. Here's some of the things that the Chicago Teachers Union is demanding. You heard them. We're not asking lawmakers. We're demanding. They're demanding a 9% annual raise for all teachers. Annual, 9% annual raise. As many of you are listening to me, you're small business owners. Imagine if your employees demanded a 9% annual raise, having no concept of what the future budgetary restrictions might be, but a 9% year-over-year raise. Every year, an additional 9%. All right? Plus, an additional $2,500 retirement bonus. Give them another $2,500 when they retire per retiree. How about this? Fully paid abortions for all teachers union members.
Cole.
This is what they're demanding. They're demanding money from the government to pay for the teachers union members to kill their unborn children. What's that got to do with education? What that? Now, look, that wasn't Cole in the studio. Now, let me be clear. It wasn't Cole Green. Cole Green is brilliant, young man. All right. But back to the Chicago Teachers Unions. Their demands also include mandated positions at schools in the Chicago public school system, such as climate champion. That's an educational position. Next, a restorative justice coordinator, demanding schools have these positions. And, y'all ready? Wait for this. Gender support coordinator. These are positions that they're demanding to be funded in the Chicago public schools. And then if that wasn't enough for you, they're also demanding housing subsidies for Chicago Teachers Union staff and Chicago public schools systems families. They're also demanding the creation of 180 new sustainable community schools, as well as the implementation of a 100% electric bus fleet. Y'all want to tell me what that got to do with education? Right up next to the climate champion position they're demanding. They're also demanding a district-wide carbon neutral mandate by 2035. They're demanding environmental, social, and governance pension investments. They want investments, but not just investments. We want you to invest in ESG. BlackRock, anyone. They also want weight loss drug coverage for all members and $2,000 for each illegal alien that's placed in the Chicago Public Schools. Now, that's not an exhaustive list, guys. That's just the greatest hits brought to you by one Abraham Hamilton III. I didn't even get to the performance of their children in the schools, which we'll get to on the other side of the break. But just let that sizzle in your spurt for a moment. This is what the red shirt wearing CTU, Chicago Teachers Union members, are demanding from legislators in the state of Illinois.
The loss of a child through abortion, miscarriage, or stillbirth affects the emotional health of families. Feelings of anger, sadness, and regret can be overwhelming. There is hope and healing in the aftermath of a reproductive loss. Call the International Helpline at 866-482-LIFE to talk with someone who has been where you are and healed to help others. Your call is confidential. 866-482-LIFE.
The Friends of Israel Today keeps a finger on the pulse of what's happening in Israel.
Yesterday, there was 66 new wounded soldiers, which in Israel numbers, it's a lot of wounded soldiers.
Yes.
Relatively to the United States, it's like you had in one day 500 soldiers who got wounded,
yes,
or 1,000. Okay, the hospitals in Israel are full with the wounded soldiers. They get the rehabilitation start now.
Hear the Friends of Israel Today every Saturday afternoon at 2 Central on AFR.
Strong families. This is David Wheaton, host of The Christian Worldview. God designed marriage to be between one man and one woman for life, for them to embrace mutually beneficial roles and to raise children to love and obey God. If one had to state just one reason why our nation is awash in rampant dysfunction, the breakdown of the family would top the list. The good news is that in a shifting culture, Christians can thrive if they stand firm on God's word, which says, "Wives, be subject to your own husbands as to the Lord. And husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her." The model for marriage is Christ and his church. Hear an interview with my 90-year-old mother at thechristianworldview.org, and then join us this weekend for another topic that will sharpen your worldview.
Listen to The Christian Worldview with David Wheaton, Saturday mornings at 8 Central on American Family Radio.
Hi, I'm Jan Harper.
And I'm Bert.
If you're a pastor's wife, you know both the blessings and the unique challenges that come with the life you and your husband live daily. We call it living in the fishbowl.
The 2024 Pastors and Wives Fishbowl Retreat is coming October 22nd through 24th. This year's retreat will be at Pickwick Landing State Park in Counce, Tennessee. As always, the Fishbowl Retreat is hosted by Pastor Bert Harper of American Family Radio and his wife Jan. Our special speaker will be Dr. Ray Pritchard, co-host of Today's Issues on AFR, and his wife Marlene. Registration is open now and space is limited. Your registration fee of $400 per couple covers lodging, meals, and materials. Come get some much-needed encouragement at the Fishbowl Retreat. Learn more and register at repairingthefoundations.net. That's repairingthefoundations.net.
The AFA Pastors and Wives Fishbowl Retreat. We'd love to see you there.
What we believe about the Bible is based on what we believe about its source.
The God Who Speaks, the award-winning documentary from the American Family Association, is now available in a special limited edition DVD set. This release includes a Sunday school curriculum and 2 hours of additional footage. Go to thegodwhospeaks.org to get your copy today. thegodwhospeaks.org.
The Hamilton Quarter podcast and one-minute commentaries are available at afr.net. Back to the Hamilton Quarter on American Family Radio.
Welcome back, Abraham Hamilton III here. And this is another one of those days when I have way more show than I have time. Because, I'm just warming up. Because these are the demands that the Chicago teachers unions are making. Now, you would think, based on these demands, you would assume that, well, Chicago's 340,000 public school students must be doing extremely well, right? And there's plenty of money to spare, right? Well, you already know the latter part is wrong because I told you they already have a current $538 million shortfall in the city budget. Now, of those 340,000 public school students, I'm sure you would be interested in knowing how they're performing, right? According to the same National Association for Educational Progress statistics that we were referring to yesterday, in the Chicago public schools, only 16% of its elementary school students tested at or above proficiency levels for reading. 16%. And 12% tested at proficiency levels for math. But they demanded $50 billion. That's elementary school. How about middle school? 16% of middle school students tested proficient for reading. 12% tested proficient for math. Again, I'm not saying excellent, guys. This is not excellent. This is proficient. Proficiency is average. What about high school? 14% of the high school students tested at proficiency levels for reading. And 14% tested at proficiency levels for math. I haven't averaged it out, but you can say generously 15% of the students are doing average. It makes me sick. It makes me sick, frankly. What else is going on, you say? I guess I got so much more to get to. We're going to be hanging out in the schools for a while. Let's toggle over to Hidden Valley Elementary in Savage, Minnesota, 20 miles south of Minneapolis. What's going on there? You say, oh, nothing much, except for a gang of elementary school students beat up one 9-year-old girl because the 9-year-old girl wasn't a Muslim. And the Muslims who beat her up assumed that she was a Christian. Listen to her mom describe it. It's clip number 1. Go.
Me and her stepdad take turns bringing the girls to school. So that morning when he was bringing her to school, he noticed that she had a black eye and he immediately took a picture of it. When she had came home that day, I just kind of looked her over and she had bruises on her arms and a bruise on her back, bruises all over her legs, in addition to the black eye.
What has your daughter told you about what took place?
So she originally told me that they pulled her down by her hair and started punching her and kicking her. She tried to get up. And when she tried to get up and go for help the first time, and I believe it was the first time that they had gotten her on the ground, that she was trying to fight back. And they had told her that if she hit them or she touched them, that they would hurt themselves, and tell the teacher that she had hurt them. So she just told me, so all I could do there is lay there, Mom.
Imagine your 9-year-old daughter, you get a call from school. You come to pick her up, and the first thing you see is your 9-year-old child has a black eye. Then you learn from the administration officials, and I should have mentioned that was Shawna Larson. That's the little girl's mom. I'm not going to say the little girl, the minor's name. But you show up, she has a black eye. The school administrators have the attack on video, guys. The school has video of this gang of thugs punching this child in the face and beating her. The parents initially thought it was only the black eye. They only learned days later she had bruises all over her body. Then you go to the school and you find out the school, oh yeah, they didn't report it to the police. No, they didn't report it to the police. I wonder if they didn't call the police and inform them because the students who did it were Muslim. I wonder if that had anything to do with it. So the mom takes it upon herself to call the police to have a assault investigation going on about it. Questions are asked, did teachers do anything? No, the attack happened. By the time the teachers learned what was going on, the little girl was already bludgeoned. And you have all of these people that are, hate crime, hate crime. You don't see anybody about hate crime, about this. These are the kinds of things, and I have to give credit to Alpha News. They are the ones who broke this story. They assumed that this girl was a Christian because of her ethnicity. Now, you guys know as well as I know, had she had a different melanin shade, had she been, let's just say, one who went to school with a hijab on, and there were a gang of girls who pounced on her and beat her up because she had a hijab on, and they beat her up because she was Muslim, you know, you would have heard this all over every news outlet. It's sickening. It's sickening. Sickening. Then you have this, man, I only got like 8 minutes left. So much to get to. Let me go here. Jessica Tapia was a teacher in the Jurupa Unified School District in California. She taught, that's the actual school, at Miraloma Middle School in California. Jessica Tapia happens to be a Christian. And while she is teaching, though, the previous year, she had all kinds of laudations, commendations, plaques, doing well. They hired her from part-time to be a full-time teacher. Then in 2022, the school district issued a mandate that required all teachers to describe children by their preferred gender pronouns. Jessica Tapia said that she loved the students that she taught too much to lie to them, so she could not abide by that. She also, on her own social media profiles that did not refer to her as a teacher, in her private time, simply said she loved the children too much to tell them a lie. Jessica Tapia was fired from her job in 2022. I have a little clip for you that describes what happened at the time she was terminated, and then I'll give you an update. It's clip number 3. Go.
Jessica Tapia was fired as a teacher from Jurupa Valley High School for refusing to hide students' gender preferences from parents.
And I said, "Are you asking me to lie to parents?" And they said yes.
AB 1266 passed in 2014. Schools can't tell parents about their children's gender identity without first asking the student. Assemblyman Billy Saley is introducing legislation saying he wants to protect parental rights so parents know what is going on with their children.
Concealing information from parents is not only wrong, it's dangerous and harmful to the emotional and physical safety.
Tapia says parents need to be involved during this time.
We are talking about minors. Their brain is not fully developed. The decision-making portal in that brain it's not fully developed, and they need their parents at this time for everything they're going through, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, you name it.
So as you heard, the state of California passed legislation that required school teachers and administrators to refer to children by their preferred pronouns, and they could not inform parents of this without the children's consent. Jessica Tapia said, not going to do it. So the school district fired her. Well, in further news, the Jurupa Unified School District has just entered a $360,000 settlement with Jessica Tapia, who filed a wrongful termination lawsuit against the school district. And the district has to now pay her $360,000.
I gotta have more cowbell.
I'm sharing this with you for one primary reason. Stand up, man. Stand up. Refuse to capitulate to what's going on around you. If it's wrong, if it's evil, if it's sinful, refuse to comply. Refuse to comply. I'm not saying be, anti just for the sake of being anti, but if it's requiring you to lie, it's requiring you to sin, to become complicit in another person's sin, don't comply. That's one of the ways we beat back this insanity. I can only imagine what Jessica Tapia went through in 2022 and her family. But now, having stood up against this behemoth of a school district, she wins. She wins. We only have a little bit of time left, so I'll try to get this in. I want to play a bit of Dr. Masanori Fukushima's video testimony. Now, this is in Japanese, but we have subtitles. We have the subtitles on the video where he describes in great detail the dangers of what he calls the mRNA vaccines. He describes them as vaccines in air quotes. And he says this is evidence of the evil practices of science, that the refusal to question the impact these injections have had on people's mortality and their health outcomes is not even scientific. It's more like blind faith and cult behavior, is what Dr. Fukushima says. He concluded any effort to dismiss the damage done by these injections and to act as if they didn't happen are frankly the work of evil. This is a quintessential example of the evil practice of science. Listen to and watch clip number 5. Go.
リビューした症例はですね、解剖もされてるんですけれども、ワクチンによって心臓が溶けた、平たく言えば、心筋の黄門筋誘拐によって亡くなった28歳の男性で、今まで医者にかかったことがない人が、ファイザーの2回目のワクチンを打った5日後に、朝、奥さんが起こしに行ったら死んでたという。で、当然のことながら警察を呼んで、それで、大学病院に運んで、そこで解剖すると。解剖した先生と話したら、解剖した先生は、心臓を取り出そうと思ったら、ふにゃふにゃで仰天したって言ってる。心臓が溶けてる。ふにゃふにゃになってる。このような症例もあるということは、もうその一例をもってしてもですね、いかにこのワクチンが危険かということは分かるわけです。だから、私から見ればね、健康な人が、今まで病気がなかった人、いつ死ぬか分かんない人じゃなくて、健康で何も問題なかった人がワクチンを打って死んだというのは重大ですよ。これは、ね、殺人ですよ、結局は。ね。
Now, in that clip, and some people telling me, hey, my husband speaks Japanese. Man, that's wonderful. In this clip, Dr. Fukushima is describing the story I began talking about in the first segment. What I did not tell you about the man who was diagnosed and 5 days later died from a heart condition, he was only 28 years old. He was healthy prior to his injection, and he died 5 days after receiving his second Pfizer injection. And Dr. Fukushima explained that the doctor who did the autopsy, when he tried to remove the heart, it was soft and disintegrated. This information is going out more and more and more. I mentioned AstraZeneca pulling their shots off the shelves. Many people remember Johnson & Johnson pulled theirs off temporarily. People coming to the fore realizing, oh, ivermectin is not a horse dewormer. The Nobel Prize-winning drug that we've used for over 2 decades, the same one that our government requires legal immigrants to our country to take, actually is no risk to your health. We've known it's safe. We still use it to treat malaria and other things. It's sad, man. Dr. Fukushima goes on, and he said this in Japanese, this is translated. Quote, imagine finding your spouse dead in the morning. It's no joke. A vaccine that causes such outcomes, even a single death, is unacceptable. There are tens of thousands of people who must see a doctor because of vaccine-related issues. And a big chunk of them, 30%, are suffering from ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis, or chronic fatigue syndrome. This is just the beginning, this is what Dr. Fukushima says, because the rates of all sorts of diseases have been spiking since the COVID shot rollout, including autoimmune disease, neurodegenerative diseases, cancer, and infections. It's as if we've opened Pandora's box. We must take these damages seriously and address them earnestly. Any efforts to dismiss these damages as if they didn't happen are frankly the work of evil. This is a quintessential example of the evil practice of science. We should never again use such vaccines. This is a shame for humanity. It's a disgrace that we did this. That is the top oncologist in Japan saying this about mRNA injections.